we are?
The mayor, and I think it's about the home.
Oh,
Yeah.
what's going on?
Press conference.
It's a reference to, it's not the, is it really? It doesn't schedule for 12 o'clock.
That's what.
Outside our door? I mean, on
In front
this,
of City
on
Hall.
this.
Oh, I thought he said the door. That's what, which I thought was weird.
John.
I think
This one.
Mark is the one who's.
I need to get my phone.
You said your
I
phone.
like your glasses.
Oh, thank you.
Those are nice.
These are my. I need
Yeah,
to
my phone.
rest my eyes.
I'm still getting email to someone else.
So yesterday, the support local 70th birthday, so sent him email welcoming him to everybody saying it's this could be on this side of the grass, you know, and whatever. I sent him this portion of a Shakespearean song about
We don't know for certain, though. Okay.
Oh, God. That's funny. Oh. Can't believe that.
Why, are you kidding? He's a year after me, and we were in the same class.
Wowza, wowza.
Mr. Page, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning. The Board of Liquor License Commissioners for Baltimore City proceedings will begin. The board is now in session. If you're in possession of any type of electronic device, please place said device on the off or silent mode during proceedings. Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, there are a few preliminary matters before we call the very first case on the AM docket. Case number 2803 SCLL LLC, no trade name, 803 South Caroline Street, an application for transfer of ownership. This matter has been postponed. Number 4 on the AM docket, trading as Murphy's Neighborhood Bar and Grill, 5800 York Road. This is a request for hardship extension. This matter has been postponed. Number 6 on the AM docket, 801 West Baltimore Street, Cafe Gourmet, Class B, and beer and wine license, request for transfer hardship extension. This matter has been withdrawn. All interested parties will be notified as to the new date and time of rescheduled hearings. Number 1 on the AM docket, Evan Rogers, Parkway Theater Service LLC, trading as Parkway Theater, 3-5 West North Avenue. This is a Class BD7 beer, wine, and liquor license, an application for a new Class BD7 beer, wine, and liquor license under Alcoholic Beverages Article 12-1603, small c, 5. Please come forward.
Good morning, everyone. Just for those who haven't been here before, and we have a different reporter here today, I'm going to ask everyone who will be speaking before the board, because we're recorded and televised, to come up to these microphones, lean in a bit, and first state your name, and if it's not Smith, spell it, please, for the reporter, and then you'll be sworn in before you give your testimony. We're ready to go. Counsel?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. My name is James Bragdon. I'm an attorney representing the applicant for the Parkway Theater, or the applicant's name is Mr. Evan Rogers, and the applicant organization is the Producers Club of Maryland, which operates the Parkway Theater.
Are they going to be testifying?
Yes, we have 3 witnesses in person, Mr. Chairman. We have Gaylord Dutton from the Baltimore Development Corporation. We have Evan Rogers, who's the applicant, and Mr. Jed Dietz, who's the founding director of the Maryland Film Festival.
May I ask them to come forward and be sworn, please? Gentlemen, if you raise your right hands, the reporter will swear you.
You solemnly swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Right?
Okay, so when you speak, just say who you are, and we'll be glad to hear from you. So, Mr. Bragdon, this is an application for a new Class BD7 license at the Parkway Theater. You have submitted, there's a number of materials in the record, including your memorandum in support of the application and the exhibits which the commissioners have had an opportunity to review.
And there's a couple, for housekeeping, there's a couple additional items I'd like to submit for the file. We've just received a letter of support from Councilman Stokes, which I'd like to submit.
If you give it to Ms. Russell.
I believe we have it.
Do we have it already?
Yeah.
Okay.
And we also have a letter in support from Corey McCrae, who is going to testify, he was going to testify today, but he's unavailable.
We also have it.
I think that's in the record as
Great.
well.
And then one other item that we have just for the file is a 6-month retrospective on the Parkway Theater.
That will all be received.
Mr. Chairman, I'll defer to you. There's a preliminary issue which involves obviously the legislation. So I can,
I don't think you need to go into any detail. We're pretty familiar with it. I've had an opportunity to review the memorandum. I'll let the other commissioners speak their views on this. I'm persuaded by your memorandum because it's pretty clear that there was a drafting error. The legislation passed unanimously. The intent throughout the correspondence and between the drafters and the legislators and with the supporters as well was that it was all aimed directly at the Parkway Theater. The drafter failed to put it in the correct location, but I think our duty, as you say eloquently in your brief, is to put into place the intent of the legislature. But I do have a question for you. Is there corrective legislation pre-filed?
It's not pre-filed, but we have commitments from the bill sponsor, Delegate McIntosh, and all the supporters that they want to correct it at the next, session.
Okay. All of that being in mind, as I said, I'm persuaded that we are authorized to read the legislation to permit this at this time. So I'll hear from my fellow commissioners.
I agree. We've read everything that we've gotten, in particular the memorandum of law that makes clear what the intent of the legislation was. There's really no ambiguity. There's only one Parkway Theater in Baltimore City. So I'm 100% comfortable in moving forward and considering this application.
I too concur with my colleagues and would suggest that the legislative history is fairly clear, given Mr. Stamper's letter, as well as the correspondence from the various legislators. So I concur with my colleagues on this issue.
In that case, Mr. Chairman, we have letters in the file which we'll let speak for themselves, but we'll call our witnesses.
That's fine.
I'll start with Mr. Dutton. We call Gaylord Dutton.
Mr. Dutton, if you just come up, spell your name, please.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Gaylord Dutton, that's Gaylord. Dutton, that's Dutton. And I'm with the Baltimore Development Corporation, Economic Development Officer. Just standing here, Mr. Chair, today, supporting Baltimore Development Corporation, supporting the Parkway Theater, obtaining a liquor license. We stand 100% behind it.
Appreciate that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
And Mr. Evan Rogers is the Director of Operations for the Producers Club of Maryland, and we call him as a witness. And Mr. Rogers was also responsible for putting together or organizing the retrospective, which we've submitted to the file. And actually, I have copies for court. So it's not our intention.
ROGERS?
That's correct. There's some additional copies. Thank you. It's not our intention, Mr. Chairman, to go through page by page of this, but I thought Mr. Rogers could summarize what the Parkway Theater has done in its first year of operation.
That's fine.
Yes.
So if you take a quick look through that document, you'll see quite a bit of activity that we've brought into the neighborhood. We've shown, I believe, over 150 new films from the emerging independent film world, and welcomed the range of over 18,000 patrons to our facility since opening on May 3rd of 2016. A number of rentals we've brought to the neighborhood that we see as kind of economic stimulus to North Avenue, and all the sort of best efforts to kind of bring more patrons and activity to that neighborhood.
Well, thank you. For speaking for myself, I think that it's a wonderful addition to the art and cultural life of Baltimore City, so we thank you for it.
Thank you.
And our last witness, Mr. Chairman, is Mr. Jed Dietz, who's the founding director of the Maryland Film Festival. And I thought Mr. Dietz might talk to the board a little bit about the liquor license and its role in the theater.
Yeah, we'd like to know how you intend to use the license, who's going to be operating the license, whether they are trained, whether they understand the rules and responsibilities.
Let me just sort of set context. I mean, in the film exhibition business now, concessions as a general concept are hugely important to the operators of the buildings. Our model is a little different because we're in a different part, we're, as Evan said, in the sort of emerging filmmaker, these filmmakers we've embraced since we started the festival 20 years ago. But as the Hollywood movies cut deals with the exhibitors, they typically take 90% of every ticket price for Thor or whatever the biggest hit is of the weekend. So the concession has now gone way beyond popcorn, and
The popcorn costs $20 anyway.
Yeah, it does, and the margins are very good on popcorn.
What's the margin on goobers? Because that's what I always get.
Yeah, Evan would know, but yeah, we're all used to paying for a soda or anything a little bit more at a movie theater, or maybe a lot more depending on where you were shopping. But you'll see in our city right now, Cine Bistro and the Landmark, which are newer entrances, and the Senator, the Rehab Senator, are really adding food and drink options all the time because it's a huge revenue source. We're a not-for-profit, so we have unearned as well as earned revenue sources, but it's a very important part of our financial structure. I will also say it's become now an amenity for moviegoers, and as we differentiate a movie theater going experience from other movie theaters and sitting at home watching Netflix or on demand, these kind of amenities, along with seating and sound and projection quality, are really important.
So what will you be serving?
So we're serving Evan, jump in because he's much more familiar with it.
To address your question regarding who operates the license, it's myself along with 2 direct reports who are all TIPS trained, certified, Safe Serve certified when it comes to on the food side. We focus on local beverages from local breweries, it's part of our kind of connection to local filmmakers and local emerging is kind of supporting the local alcohol industry as well.
Is it primarily beer and wine, or is it a full array of?
Beer, wine, and spirits.
Okay. And everyone's trained and they understand their responsibilities to card people?
Absolutely.
Where they can purchase the alcohol for your inventory?
Absolutely.
The hours and other limitations that are imposed by the license?
Absolutely.
Okay. And did I see a suggestion of a memorandum of understanding?
Yeah, I wanted to ask
this
about
Yes,
record?
there is from the Charles Village Community Association.
And is that in the record, Mr. Bragdon?
The letter attaching it is in the original application?
Do we have it,
Is
Ms.
there-
Russell?
Yes, it should be in your packet.
Okay.
So it was negotiated as before the legislation was introduced, as sort of a condition for the legislators to support the liquor license. And one other small point I'll make is
I
that
just want to ask Mr. Raj, you understand that if approved, to the extent that it's enforceable, the MOU would be a limitation on your license?
Yes.
Okay.
And the final point, Mr. Chairman, I was going to make about that is the lounge or restaurant has been operating on single-day permits, and there's been the community has been pleased with the theater for the year that it's been operating.
Okay.
And just one or two other questions, Mr. Chairman, and I'll rest. Mr. Dietz, can you just address briefly why this theater is a little different than existing theaters?
Yeah, Evan talked a little bit about it. I mean, there are hundreds of films that open in New York or reviewed in the New York Times, for instance, that never come to Baltimore. And from the festival standpoint, this is true of films that play our festival and others. You could see it every year. So that was really the beginning of our motivation as we started looking for land in Station North, which had been sort of our home base. And that's what we've been doing. And we're learning every day how to do it better, but we're attracting, as Evan mentioned, a sort of stunning amount of people for films that get no marketing support outside of what we bring when they come into the community.
Where are the patrons parking? Right on North Avenue?
North Avenue and Charles, Maryland, a little bit on St. Paul, and many are using the Landvale Lafayette block of Charles, the one just south of us, has, been grown for, well, we opened it actually when the Charles expanded, and that's had a transformative effect in that block, and some people are parking there and then just walking up.
Okay. And is there any security?
Absolutely. Whenever we're open to the public, and actually during the day as well, we host academic classes in theaters, 2 of our theaters, and we have a security guard present at all times.
Okay, commissioners, do you have questions?
Well, first, I want to disclose that I am a friend of the Maryland Film Festival. I am a dues-paying member.
You are, thank you.
And supporter. I don't feel any bias one way or the other with respect to the application for a liquor license. The other thing, I just wanted to put on the record, not that I'm giving evidence, I guess I am, but there's a lot of public transportation. I mean, there's a lot happens on North Avenue and then North Charles Street, and Uber seems to be the favored mode of transportation these days. But here's the questions regarding the liquor license. You've been using the one-day licenses for some period of time. In that time, has there been any experience of people bringing stuff in? Like, when I go to the movies, I'll admit I'll bring goobers because that's my favorite. But is there any indication that people are bringing alcohol in? And is there any system that might help you find that if that is an issue?
No, that's a great question. I basically spend an enormous amount of my time at the facility along with 2 other managers. Not alcohol. We get a lot of people bringing in soda or takeout food from a neighboring restaurant, but everyone's been trained to both not accept any sort of outgoing food, or we offer an alternative, such as putting it in a refrigerator until they're able to leave. And that also includes exiting our facility, so not allowing any patrons to leave the facility with any sort of alcoholic beverage.
And that was the next line of questioning is, taking things out. You've got 2 concession stands, one near each entrance, and you're able to manage that.
Absolutely. Our security guard is trained, and we have an usher staff that also keeps a very close eye on that.
Okay, so the ushers and the security are part of that system.
Absolutely.
In terms of the need, I mean, there was testimony about that, and just to be competitive, I went to I forget the name of the theater near the Hippodrome, but not the Hippodrome.
Everyman Theater?
Everyman Theater, yeah. I went there on Sunday, and they have alcohol concession. So it just seems that is where we are.
I'm on the board at Center Stage too, and now you even can take drinks into the plays. There are sippy cups with lids to prevent, spillage. I mean, this is something through the entertainment industry. Movies are huge as a part of, for audience draw. So there's a lot of ongoing development in the movie world too, and to, both for patron, but for earned revenue stream too.
Okay.
I'm old enough to remember when you went to the movies and everyone was smoking, so you couldn't even see the screen.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I was going to say that patrons need to drink because of the price of popcorn. Not, of course, at the Parkway.
We have the world's best popcorn. It comes from an organic farm just outside in Pennsylvania. It's really good.
Super.
Anything further,
No, we'll submit on the file,
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
commissioners?
I
Okay. On the basis of the extensive materials that have been submitted to the board in support of this application, the memorandum, which I found persuasive in terms of our authority today to act on the legislation which enables us to grant the license, and the testimony we've heard, I would vote to approve the license.
And I agree, I concur. Obviously, the need factor is, to me, that was important because there are liquor licensees around, but you've established the need for this location to have this license, and for that reason, I concur.
I join my colleagues and would add what I enjoy about this position is I get to learn so much, and I wasn't that familiar with the Parkway Theater, and I applaud you for the investment and all the work you're doing, especially as a nonprofit in this endeavor. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Good luck. Right. And happy Thanksgiving. Thank you.
Yes.
I'd call the exhibits for the record.
How do you spell your first and last name?
I'd like to call exhibits for the record. Applicant Exhibit 1, first 6-month plan. Board Exhibit 1, letter of support from Charles North Community dated November 15, 2017 and August 15, 2016. Exhibit number 2, letter of support from Delegate McIntosh dated November 13, 2017 and June 26, 2017. Letter of support from Councilman Robert Stokes dated June 23, 2017. Exhibit number 4, letter of support from Delegate Corey McCray dated June 11, 2017. Exhibit number 5, letter of support and MOU from Charles North Community Association dated April 5, 2017. Exhibit 6, Senate Bill Amendment. Thank you.
Mr. Page?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Teresa Salega Mosconis, 2844 Hudson LLC, trading as Lee's Pint and Shell, 2844 Hudson Street. This is a Class BD7 beer, wine, and liquor license. A request to expand premises to include second and third floors. Please come forward.
Counsel?
For the record, Melvin J. Kanensky, 19 East Fayette Street, representing the licensee.
Good morning. Can I ask you folks to raise your right hands, please?
You solemnly swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Do.
For the record, this establishment's been there for probably 10 years or so. They've been an asset to the community. Start off as the Saute Cafe, same licensees. And at that time, they've been fairly popular. They needed some room for expansions for private parties and to do special events. They went to the BMZA. They were able to get approval for expansion of 25%, which is about 930 square feet to the second floor. And also that the third floor is just for their office and for some storage, not for a licensed premises. They received a letter, and I think it's in your folder, from the Canton Community Association from Mr. Dan Tracy. If not, I've got some extra copies I thought was in the back of your packet.
We have it. Thank you.
Okay. And also, if you need extra copies of the resolution, I see that's also in your packet. It would enable them to hire some additional employees there. And talking with Teresa, she said probably maybe over 75 or 80% are people who live in the neighborhood, which truly makes it a neighborhood place, and it would enable her to hire some additional people to work the private parties and the overage that they need.
Okay. And they've had this, you say, for about 10 years. There are no violations?
No violations that we have in there. And, you know, it's one of those unique places because, you know, a lot of times people always talk about dogs, like if you're a dog lover. I don't know if you are or not. But they have little places out there in front where they have outdoor table service. They have little bowls where the dogs come, little doggy bowls. And it makes for a nice social gathering with people so they can talk and the dogs can sort of acquaint themselves with the other dogs.
That's actually very important.
I think so, too.
It is. I am a dog lover.
You know, they say when you're running for office, you should never have a picture taken with you and your family and a dog.
You should not?
You should.
Oh, you should.
Or a horse, but it's tough to get horses in the picture, so they always like to have a dog.
You always say something.
So, commissioners, do you have questions?
I do. Some of the communications mentioned David Carey as the principal and even
David Carey.
suggest you
These
might.
two, you might find it hard to believe, were married at one time. And Dave is basically, he helps doing the managing and so forth, and is there principally to help out Teresa. They're not married, but they're business acquaintances.
Because at one point, your last name was Carey, because that's in the documentation as well. So you co-owned it, or
We do.
you worked, or you still do?
Well, I own the real
Yeah,
estate,
he owns a building.
You own the building, you own the license,
and we both work the business.
and you both work the business. Okay. That was my only question. It's like, who is David Carey? Okay, thank you.
She's probably wishing.
Okay, we'll save that for a different setting.
Commissioner?
I don't have a question, I have a comment. I obviously know of your establishment, I've been there. So the one issue I have, and please don't take this the wrong way, is social media. You're advertising that there's a grand opening tonight, which is fine, except let's assume that this commission decides to turn down your request. Poses kind of a problem.
Well, we wouldn't do it. We would cancel it.
No, I understand. I think you're missing my point, though. So I would just be a little more sensitive to these things. Again, I'm likely to support this, but just please keep that in mind. And you guys aren't the only ones that do this, but I just want to raise that in the future, because, you know.
Get excited, but I totally
No, I just,
understand what you're saying.
you know, you may have 2,000 people there tonight, which is great. I'd love it. It's great for business. It's awesome, but you may not be approved. So that's my only comment.
Okay, anything further?
Just let me understand. Your application is to expand premises to include the second and third floors. Obviously, they're already there, they're already built out. You just want to be able to use your license in space that you already own.
Correct.
And that's already ready to serve
And
alcohol.
the third floor is only office space.
So you don't want to serve alcohol on the third floor?
No, it's just
But
storage.
The application, okay. Okay, for storage, okay. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, on the basis then of the materials contained in the application, the support from the Canton Association, testimony we received today, I'd vote to approve the request for expansion.
So I vote to approve.
I concur.
What time is the party?
Oh, I have it here. You want Commissioner Moore, you want to join me? It's at, it's 4 to 2 a.m.
Well, that's just our hours of operation.
Okay.
Fair enough.
Try to give them, after they got the approval, but they belong to the Slowskis. That's talking to the Slowskis to get the hearing up here.
Right, those the turtles that talk on television?
They're related,
Slowskis.
they're related to the Kadenskis, I think, right?
You know the difference between the SKY and the SKIs?
I do.
We're getting ready to find out.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Again, we weren't
Good
trying to
luck.
insult the board by
No, you're
putting
right.
that out there. We
Just,
were-
you're not the
exhibits
only
for the
ones that
record.
do this. I'm just, in the future, just be mindful. That's all.
Yeah, we're still on the record. You got to call exhibits, right? Is that right? All right.
Are we still on the record?
Yes.
Okay, Board Exhibit 1, letter of support from Canton Community Association dated October 27th, 2017. Thank you.
Okay. This. I think this is a whole pack. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I don't need it.
Aaron Hammonds and Samari Wyatt, A.O. Hammonds Group, Inc., trading as Shipyard Pub, 3500 O'Donnell Street. This is a Class BD7 beer, wine, and liquor license. A request for a hardship extension. Please come forward.
Good morning, gentlemen. Would you raise your right hands, please?
Do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
We do. We do.
And you are, sir?
It's Aaron Hammonds, Mr. Chairman.
And you are?
Samori Wyatt.
Okay, well, welcome. So you've asked us to extend the time for transfer of the license due to renovations, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
So tell us what happened.
I don't think it's a transfer. It's,
Mr. Chairman, this is just a regular hardship extension.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Well, yeah, I'll start off. I got a little bit of some talking notes here. So we started out, I don't know if y'all remember last time, we were doing some minor renovations to the place. And I remember you asking us how it had traded hands so quickly. And we found out why. I mean, that's the best thing I could start with. Well, what we found out after we started into our minor renovations is that the business had been built over several times. So we had about 10 inches of walls. There had been 3 other things. I listed them. It had been a general store, a strip club, or go-go dancer club, and a tavern/pool hall. And each person who came into the next, business part of it or decided to renovate, they didn't start over. They just built on top. So when we started into our minor renovations, we started cracking through some of the walls, and every layer was messed up. Every step of the way there was issues. Just some of the stuff that I have listed here. I mean, there was excess wiring, there was rodent feces, there was gas lines running between the walls, which would have caused major fire hazards. We took out a half dumpster of just piping and wiring when we found out we had a demo, and we got a demo permit for that. There were several cracked support beams which were spotted from the basement. There was a steel I-beam in the basement that supported the front part of the business, where there was a concrete floor on top of it. When we had our construction guys come in and inspect it, we found out it wasn't installed correctly, and basically the basement ceiling was holding up the I-beam, which was basically leaving it unuseful. So if we would have packed the place, there was quite a chance that we could have had a bunch of people in the basement. So, you know, we couldn't move forward with those issues. There's a window on the first floor that was installed incorrectly without putting a lintel on top of it. So now that sidewall is caving outwards. And there's going to need to be a temporary support wall built there so that the wall can be repaired. You know, there's a stairwell that leads upstairs that wasn't supported properly, and that's not even our responsibility. That's landlord-tenant thing. We just leased the first floor. So, I mean, there was some landlord-tenant issues as to who was responsible for paying for all this, because we lease, we don't own the building, and, you know, there's a multi-use building, and, you know, there was some back and forth as to who is going to cover these problems, and that kind of got us into a stalemate. So there was a lot of things that came up through
What's
our
the status right
minor
now?
renovations. Right now,
Are you moving forward, or are you stalled?
well, we did the demo, and, you know, we've gotten through all of our issues with our landlord, and, you know, we've come to not our best agreement, but something that works. We do realize that the bills don't stop, and we want to get this thing open, you know. So we now have started our MEP process over again, and we have to wait the 6 weeks for the, you know, the permit review and everything, which has pushed us past our liquor license time. But we do want to move forward. I mean, we've invested a lot of time into it, a lot of effort. I mean, we've developed a menu. I've even actually brought some pictures if you guys want to see some of the things we discovered.
Certainly. Do you have a target date at the moment for when you might be able to open?
Our target date is hopefully March. That's when we'd like, because, you know, with the 6-week time frame, that puts us somewhere in between mid-January. You know, we're still in the last submittal process. Our engineers already started the process, but we working out some small details like where the pipes go and drains and stuff like that. So then it'll probably take us a month to a month and a half to actually get the place built. And we want to hit the ground running. We've already hired a chef. You know, we've already started our training processes. We've already put a lot of systems in place. We've hired a marketing company. I mean, we've started a menu. I mean, I've got engineering, you know, diagrams and architectural plans. We've already hired an architect. You know, we've done all the steps needed to get the place built. We just needed to get through a lot more renovation than we thought was going to be needed.
Yes.
So, Chairman and Commissioners, so that the board have a better understanding, you appeared before the board on March the 30th, 2017, for a public hearing to do a transfer of ownership. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And you approved at that time?
Yes, sir.
We physically transferred the license to your LLC or to your corporation on 4/24/2017. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And since that time, you were operating for a short period of time?
Yes.
And then decided to renovate and ran into those difficulties. That's why you're here before this board asking for hardship.
Yes, sir.
Okay, just wanted the board to have a full understanding. That
And
wasn't approval of the application.
Is this,
for transfer.
this, and we can approve how much additional time? 180?
180 days from today's date, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Is that going to be enough?
We believe that's going to be enough. I mean, we've definitely done most of our diligence, and I think we've been through every loophole and problem we could have at this point.
Yeah. It's Aaron Hammonds. Just to add to that, those are the major things that we found. I would like to also add small things like the landlord, you know, he built out the upstairs to be a condo for residential living. Throughout our demo process, on top of all these things, you know, he built the deck on the back roof, and I want to say when he was replacing some pipes, doing some plumbing a few weeks ago, there was a lot of leakage in the back of our, you know, I saw it coming through the ceiling, and luckily, you know, there was a flush. Yeah, luckily, you know, someone was upstairs because they just occupied that space, I want to say, about a month and a half ago. So luckily, we caught somebody home and flushing and all of the stuff, you know, draining from the ceiling. So that's another thing that he had to correct as well. So, I mean, again, like Samurai said, a lot of tedious, unforeseen obstacles that we've come across. But at this point, we're totally demoed. I think we've addressed all of the small things, and we've come to an agreement with the actual landlord for him to support us financially and to, you know, be lenient on us with the with some of the rent, or with that rent until we get the things fixed that we need fixed.
You wouldn't choose this location again if you,
Honestly, I would choose a location. The location is an excellent location, just based off of demographic and marketing strategy. However, it was just an old building. But it takes, it took more than we thought it would take, but I think it'll definitely be worth it.
I hope so. Commissioners, do you have questions?
Just a general question. The work, all of the work that's being done at this building, it's all being done subject to permits, right? Permits have been pulled by you guys as well as the landlord for the work that he's doing.
Yes.
Okay, that would be really important.
That's why we haven't really been able to make it past anything yet. We've only really made it through demo phase. I mean, because there's just too many other obstacles to do that we would never do without a permit.
Okay. I mean, this sounds like the Property Brothers TV show on, which you probably don't even watch, on HGTV. You probably don't even know about that channel. But, I mean, it's just like once you start opening it up, it just gets
Can of worms.
a can of worms and just gets worse and worse. I think you've pretty well established the
I've owned
reason
enough homes to know how bad this
for
can
the
be.
hardship. Yeah.
It kind of reminds me of that movie, The Money Pit.
Oh, my gosh, yeah.
I have nightmares every night.
Oh.
Yeah, it's been a lot.
It's a learning experience, definitely.
Only thing we've been able to get accomplished is we did remove that nasty, ugly form stone off of the outside, and now there's a beautiful brick facade on there. So we're restoring it back to the way the neighborhood.
Yeah, and just also to add, one of the other things that I think we forgot to mention, there was a boiler in the basement.
Yes.
It was full of asbestos.
I saw that.
So that
And
was
did you have
another-
to do an abatement?
Yes, we did an abatement.
Yep.
Yes.
It's been,
my
anything you can think of has happened. It's been
Okay.
not fun.
Well, with sympathy, gentlemen, on the basis of the materials you've given us and the exhibits today and your testimony, I'd vote to approve the request for the hardship extension.
I do as well.
Thank you.
I concur. I live a stone's throw from this establishment, walk by on occasion, and I know you guys are working hard. And I give you a lot of credit because you could have been like any previous owner and sought to sell the license instead, but you're sticking with it, so I give you credit, and I concur with my colleagues.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and
luck.
Commissioners. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
And have a good Thanksgiving.
You all as well.
Yes.
And a good Christmas as well.
Thank you. Yeah, that's right. You're not going to be back. And Easter.
And Easter, yes.
I'll do both. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Take good care.
Medical exhibits for the record.
Mm-hmm.
Licensee Exhibit 1, construction photos. Thank you.
That's our morning docket, Mr. Page.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the board is in recess until 1 p.m.
Thank you.
Hey, Doug. May I give you my cell phone?
This is a Class B beer, wine, and liquor license here for violation of Rule 4.16, illegal conduct on May the 19th, 2017. Violation of Rule 4.16, illegal conduct on May the 19th, 2017. Please come forward.
Counsel?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, and fellow commissioners. My name's Kevin O'Keefe on behalf of Rob McCarovich and the Clipper Mill.
Okay, would everyone who is going to testify please raise your right hand?
Do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Okay, now, your client's been charged with 2 violations on May 19. Do they wish to admit or deny?
We want to admit with explanation.
Fine. Okay. The charge is that when Agent Chrysomalis and Inspector Perez were there on May 19th of this year at 9:55 p.m., they observed 3 individuals enter into an alleyway adjacent and connected to the premises through a wooden fence, and they entered the area and observed 5 individuals in the alleyway adjacent there. And they observed an individual with an open bottle of Bud Light beer, which had been purchased at the establishment, and entered that alleyway to join the group of people. And then the other violation has to do with observing the same area with an individual throwing a clear plastic baggie containing small items, which were suspected CDS, and another as well, and that there was a chemical analysis showing these items to be positive for cocaine and marijuana. So you want to start with or put them together and explain?
Right, thank you. What I'd first like to do is this bar, I'd like to give you this document right here. And what that is, it's a sign that says no trespassing. So that they take that, no loitering, they take that very seriously. And that's on front of the door that's adjacent to the bar where there's an alleyway. But people have to go there because there's an apartment. In order to get to the apartment, they have to go through that door. The
So I'm sorry,
apartment's-
just so I'm clear.
Yes.
So the entrance to the location is next to this?
Yes, to the apartment,
And
No, behind
the
it.
entrance to the bar is where?
next to it.
Right, on, say, this side?
Yes,
Okay.
this side.
And the apartment is behind this?
Yes.
So you have to go through this in order to get to the apartment? Okay, and how many apartments are there?
One.
So, and how many people live there, do you know?
It's 3.
Okay, and can you just state into the microphone your name, sir?
She should come up.
Robert Makarovich.
Okay, do you need him to spell his name?
I got it right here. Is it, according to the paper I'm going by, Makarovich? Is that correct, sir? All right.
Okay, and do you know the individual?
I knew
Lives
one
there?
of them, but I didn't know the other
No,
person.
no, I'm saying the individual who lives there, you know that person? Okay. Was that person, do you know his name?
Her name's Stephanie Correct.
Was there a woman involved in any of this?
There was a female and 2 males that I have.
And Detective, can you state your name for the record, please?
Detective Abraham Gatto, Baltimore City Police Vice Unit. There were, I can read you here, there's 3 patrons, John Grob, Thaddeus Joseph, and Amanda Nicole Rittenor, both 2 of them from 202 Rock Rose Avenue, and Thaddeus Joseph from 3860 Falls Road. They were inside of that little
Areaway.
What that areaway is also access to the bar, because once you go in, there's a door just to your left. You can swinging door. We can go right in and out of the bar. Yeah, I know that there's apartments and things, but let's be truthful here. There's access to the bar, and that's why there were beers coming out from that side of the bar, and these individuals can go in. There's also trash inside that area where the bar comes out the side door, puts their trash out there.
Okay, so we have an admission that these incidents occurred, and you were starting to explain, so I cut you off.
Just one question. How many beers did you see out there that night?
There's photographs taken, so I know of seeing one.
One. And we also like to say that the person that was the manager that night or doorman has been relieved of his duties. So we understand that there needs to be more vigilance in terms of watch controlling access. It is a side door that goes to the alleyway, but it's completely adjacent to the bar. So some people will go out there and smoke, is that right?
I'd rather have people on the side smoking than rather out front.
But on occasion, obviously, they take alcohol with them, and then also on this occasion, some people had drugs with them.
Right, but the girl that had the drugs, and Mr. Chris Amalas can attest to, she came in through that gateway. She was not in the bar.
Well, I don't know.
The female, all 3 of the people that Detective Goddard mentioned, all walked in through that wooden gate.
They didn't come from the bar.
Can you state
The
your name?
one gentleman that had, I'm sorry, are you talking to me?
There's just confusion as to who's testifying. There's a concern that you haven't stated your
Yes, he
name.
did.
Okay, that's good, but you probably need to come up and speak into the microphone. And, yeah. You're fine.
I'm fine, okay. So the one gentleman that had the marijuana was not one of the 3 people that we saw walk in through the gate. The 2 people that had the cocaine and the female are the ones that walked in through the gate. The gentleman with the bag of marijuana must have came in through the bar side.
Okay. Anything else that you want to tell us?
Just in the document that I just gave you, if, on page 2 and 3 are cameras that are affixed to the structure. And the one thing Mr. Makarovich has said to the police department, that he will work with them, that they can utilize those cameras if they need them to find out any evidence.
Well, so you don't control who comes through this gate?
I try to, but with the apartment upstairs, people, whenever I throw them out, they say, well, I'm visiting Mike who lives upstairs. And I had to call the police on a couple occasions because they were hanging out front. And it's just a gray area that I'm having problems policing because of that.
Okay. I mean, you've had this license for 10 years, and I think you've only had one violation here for a minor sale back in 2013. So is there anything else that you gentlemen want to tell the board?
We met with the licensee, Chief Fosler, myself, the neighborhood association president who is here today, and the major at Northeast. And we laid out some ground rules for the licensee. We talked about the numerous complaints for drug activity and prostitution in front of his bar. He actually agreed, and he said that he wants to try to stop that activity also. We did talk about the cameras. I asked him if he'd be willing to give Baltimore City Police accessibility to the cameras to be able to monitor, and he agreed. I'm assuming that that's happened. That's all, but we did meet with him approximately 30 days after this violation.
Okay, and are you Ms. Grimes, ma'am? Okay, you want to come up to the microphone, please?
sworn.
I thought you were sworn, I'm sorry. Okay.
Good. Just need to raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the truth?
I know
the whole
you
truth,
do.
and nothing but
They
the
don't.
truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Your name, please?
I'm Jennifer Grimes. I'm the chair of the Crime and Safety Committee for the Hampton Community Council. So I was part of the meeting that Mr. Chrisomolis just described in May of 2017. We met with Mr. Makarovich, sorry. And as a result of many complaints from neighbors, neighboring businesses, you know, we had a lot of complaints about disorderly conduct and drinking outside, fighting, that kind of thing. He did promise to improve things, and I followed up recently with the neighboring business that complained before and neighbors, and hear that there's been marked improvement. Major Gibson let me know that there have only been 2 calls for service to that location since our meeting. One was just for an arrest warrant, and one was for a domestic situation that had nothing to do with the bar itself. So
And
I'm
when was your
hearing that-
meeting?
Our meeting was May
Oh, okay, so
23rd,
it's been some time.
2017, so soon after this incident. But I followed up in the past couple of weeks since I knew this hearing was coming. So I hear that there have been improvements. We had problems with an adjacent alley that was overgrown, and people from the bar were hanging out in the alley and drinking. We've gotten that alley cleaned up recently with Councilman Pinkett's help. So we're trying to work as a neighborhood to get this situation. It's been a known problem at this location for a while. So we're working together to try to improve, and it sounds like it is improving.
Yeah, I wonder if, some transparency instead of this wooden gate might not be helpful so that people can't be back there and unseen. But in any event, do the commissioners have questions?
I have a few questions. Who owns the apartment building next? I thought so. So you control that whole area. Why don't you come up to the microphone? So you control the space between the 2 buildings. And do you feel that that space between the 2 buildings is available for your patrons at the bar to be out smoking and taking their drink and lounging in that area?
Well, they're not allowed to drink. There's a overhang for them to smoke while it's raining.
Okay, is
So
there
they're not, crowding out in front of the bar.
Is there a table basically in that
No, there's
breezeway
trash
area?
cans.
Just trash cans?
That's why it's hidden, because it's like 10 trash cans there.
Have you considered putting fencing between the 2 properties, which is a pretty common thing with row houses? There's a fence between the 2 properties so that there's not easy flow of ingress and egress between the 2 properties.
The apartment's located upstairs. It's only maybe about a 6-foot wide area.
Upstairs of what? Upstairs of the bar?
Yeah, it's on
Okay,
top of
I
it.
understand.
It's not.
Okay.
It's only about 6 foot wide. So to put a fence down the middle, and we bring all our deliveries in through that side as well, through
Okay.
to the back.
Okay. Are you open to the idea of putting a mesh fence or metal fencing so that the area is
There
visible?
was there. I was just trying to cover it up, so for aesthetics reasons.
Okay. And when did the no loitering sign go up on the outside
It
of
was
the
right
fence?
around May.
May after the incident?
I think so, yeah.
So afterwards, and when did the cameras go up?
They've been there.
So they've been there
Yeah.
for, even before this
Yes,
incident
yes.
occurred. Did you know the people that were involved in the
I
incident?
knew the one guy with the marijuana.
So, and he's one of your patrons?
He works around the corner. He would come in for lunch.
He works around the corner from
Yeah,
the
one of the
bar?
businesses, yeah.
Okay. And you're situated right near, like, the Clipper Mill complex, for lack of a better term, right? Like you come down Union Mill, you make a left, and then you go over that little wooden
We're
bridge.
before the bridge.
You're before the bridge. Okay.
East, right across from where the Pepsi plant was.
Okay, but right on Union
Mhm.
Avenue. Are there other bars near yours?
There's one, the Blue Pit, one on the same block, and there's one right behind us, Waverly Brewing.
Yeah, it's Waverly Brewing has the outdoor
Uh-huh.
seating, and they tend to have a lot of people, but it's all behind a fenced area, correct?
Right.
And yours, it's not uncommon for people to be loitering on the outside or in front, correct?
Yeah, there's a lot of smokers. It's more of a blue-collar bar.
Mm-hmm. And I understand you're not in any way contesting the chemical analyses of what was discovered or recovered. Okay, thank you.
I think just one question for either the agents or the detective. Since May, it sounds, based upon Ms. Grimes' testimony, that the licensee is much more engaged, seemingly. Is that, are you aware of any other incidents, any violations, any issues since May?
Quite honestly, we've been pretty redeployed with our social task force. That's not in the zone, and unless we got a 311 complaint, we wouldn't be visiting it at this time, and we have not received any 311 complaints.
All right, thank you.
Anything further?
I would like to offer a letter for the record. This is from Jimmy Mathis, who is on WBAL radio, and he's become a regular there. And I think he captures.
Regular at this facility?
Yes, I mean, he comes there for lunch, and what I think it captures is that this is a neighborhood bar. It's a working class bar that's been there for a long time. Another person that would go there would be John Waters, the movie, and mentions this references that, the movie producer. He would go there years back for karaoke, and that also references how Mr. Makarovich, when he bought the bar, took control, he and his wife in 2006, 2007, they made significant improvements to try to upgrade it and just make it a more welcoming place for the entire community.
How'd you get the nickname the Bloody Bucket?
That's from the 50s.
Okay. Is there anything further? Okay, on the basis of the testimony, the admission, and the materials that are contained in our charging papers, I would find a violation of Rule 4.16 on May 19, 2017 with respect to the Bud Light beer in that areaway. And I would also find a violation of Rule 4.16 on May 19, 2017 with respect to the cocaine and marijuana and the individuals in the same areaway. Mr. Makarovich, am I saying your name correctly? This is a problem, and it's going to continue to be a problem, I'm afraid, so you've got to be aggressive, but at least, we've heard testimony that you're trying to, and there have been no 311 since then, and I have to say that I thought that you were very candid with us in your responses to your questions today. But there are violations. So as to the first violation, I would impose a $300 fine, and as to the second, a $500 fine, and I would give you 30 days to pay them.
So I agree with the findings of the violations, and I do agree that it's pretty serious. You're located in a really dense, busy area. And there are a lot of people that care deeply about what happens there, because it's not just the residential, there are businesses, there are programs that have children participating. You're in a really busy corner. I think that the fines are low that have been imposed. You were here in 2013 and there was a $500 fine. I think on the first one, I would raise that fine to $500, and I would leave the second one at $500 for a total of $1,000. And, you know, and I'll be candid, when I first read this, I thought yours was a place that should close because of the activity and the impact on the community is so great. And what moved me away from that is the testimony that there's been, and I think the words were marked improvement, and that's the only reason that I'm not suggesting a period of closure. But this is really serious.
I would, I too find violations of 4.16 on both. I will concur with Commissioner Moore on the 500 and 500 for each violation. I agree that it's serious. I do take into account, though, that you are making effort, and it sounds to me like there has been improvement, as Commissioner Moore suggested. I'd encourage you to stay engaged with the community and keep talking and working with the community so we don't have to see you again in an afternoon docket.
Okay, so it's a total of $1,125, I think, unless that's doubled.
It's $11.25.
That's correct, and you have 30 days to make the payment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you have a card I can
Oh,
have?
there's another letter, right?
Another letter? Oh, yeah, there was a second letter, yeah.
Thank you. Exhibits for the record. Board Exhibit 1, Baltimore City Police Department Report, Detective Gatto. Board Exhibit 2, Investigation Report, Agent Chris Malice. Board Exhibit 3, 8 photos. Board Exhibit 4, Lab Analysis. Licensee Exhibit 1, photo of no loitering sign and security camera. Licensee Exhibit 2, letter of support from Jimmy Mathis, dated 11/15/2017. Licensee Exhibit 3, letter dated 11/4/2014, in support. Thank you.
Nathaniel Brown, Sammy Ibrahim, and Ashraf Abraham, A&S Brothers, Inc., trading as Lust, 408 East Baltimore Street. This is a Class BD7 beer, wine, and liquor license, and a Class AE adult entertainment license. Here for violation of Alcoholic Beverages Rule 4.16 on September the 16th, 2017. Violation of Adult Entertainment Rule 3.17, small c, 1, on September the 16th, 2017. Violation of Adult Entertainment Rule 3.17, small c, 1, on September the 16th, 2017. Violation of Adult Entertainment Rule 3.17, small c, number 2, on September the 16th, 2017, and violation of Adult Entertainment Rule 3.17D on September the 16th, 2017. Please come forward and raise your right hand.
For the record, Melvin J. Kudensky, 19 East Fayette Street, representing the licensees.
Good afternoon. Would you please swear them?
You solemnly swear to affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
We're going to have admissions or denials, Mr. Kudensky?
It's sort of a, I don't contest the facts as they would be given by Chief Inspector Foster. What more of the argument is that there's some doctrine of merger and one single incident, that some of the things are all combined in one into the other, but besides
Is that
that.
a
we would not
factual
contest-
dispute, or?
No, the way the law is reading it, and any of the acts that they require the same thing for the same acts, so be the doctrine of merger and that it's a single incident.
Well, I guess what I'm not clear about, because I can't tell from this statement, Mr. Fosler, how many of the employees were involved? I mean, was it one young woman or two young women or three?
Yes.
Okay, so were they three separate acts then?
Sorry. Okay. Chief Inspector Mark Fosler, Baltimore City Liquor Board Chairman. Yes, there were. I can answer the question directly, or I can give you my report, but there was 3 separate individual acts.
So let me just take you through these briefly, if it's okay. So the first charge is the alcohol beverage violation, and where our report says that you observed someone touching this dancer's breasts and grabbing her in various private places. So that was one individual that you observed, is that correct?
Yes, sir. One individual performer, one individual patron.
Okay, and the next violation is under the adult entertainment rule. Is that the same incident as the one under the alcoholic beverages rule?
Maybe I would best be asking if Mr. Akras could give me some clarification myself, but I can tell you that most definitely.
Well, there are 3 others after that under the adult entertainment rule, so.
The three adult entertainment violations were 3 separate incidents involving 3 separate performers and 2 separate patrons.
Okay.
As I may, I think the result of those give rise to the 4.106. I mean, the illegal conduct, because that was the illegal conduct that you consider to go into 4.16 for the alcoholic beverage. That's my theory.
Okay, so how many violations are you arguing that there are before
There
us?
was one incident, there would have been 3 violations, all at the same time, all at the same place, basically.
But you don't think they're separate violations?
I'm going to consider it as all one incident, as they did in the Goodfellas case, although you had separate times there, that's all.
Okay. Otherwise, you admit everything?
Yeah, right, and unless we have more mitigation, I don't want to go through all the
Right.
details of the situation.
Okay. The commissioners have questions?
I just want to get clarity, but there were 3 different women involved with the violations. Is that correct?
That's correct, Commissioner Moore.
So there's 3 different women. Are there 3 different patrons that are engaging with the 3 different women?
The 2 women that involved the illegal touching involved 2 different patrons. The other was nude mingling, which
Okay.
didn't involve a patron.
Okay. Okay, so I don't see how they, I mean, just from what I hear, I don't see how they
It
merge.
just all happened at the same time. It wasn't like over a period of a long time. It was bada bing, bada boom, right on through. The
Yeah,
same
but
time.
bada bing, bada boom, bada bing, bada boom, bada bing, bada boom,
Got it.
right? That's
Yeah,
3.
Or you go back the other way, it's just
Or
the same result.
boom, bing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
I think it's 3 separate, or I think it's all, I don't see how they merge, I guess is what I'm saying.
Well, if you didn't have those 3, then you wouldn't have the alcoholic beverage violation, because that's the
Well, it's-
illegal conduct you're talking about in the 4.16 arises out of those. Without those, you don't have the other 3. That's my theory.
Different
Okay.
licenses.
Yeah.
I know, but you can't get to 4.16 unless you get to the other ones. Okay, that's it. That's my argument.
I hear your argument, but.
I don't have any questions.
Okay.
But basically, in the situation, this is a new business. They haven't been here before. If you remember, that was a business that we had a problem with. They had $580,000 in sales tax lien that we had to take care of. We finally got everything going. This gentleman here bought the properties on either side, and he and his brother are running. This is the general manager. At the time, they had a larger than normal crowd there because they were letting individual performers who were doing up-and-coming hip-hop people to do little shows. They've since done away with all that. They've instructed all the performers, the ladies that are working, that when they finish their shift on the stage, they cannot walk off unless they have a cover-up on them. So will be no more nude mingling on it. A lot of these performers come from other places, not that it's any good from other places, and they've established a code that if they catch anybody doing that, they're immediately fired. Also, if they catch anybody that happens to be touching in between, and it's a rough time to be going into a touching situation, but it is what it is. And they also have, of course, so they're giving to everybody a set of rules that you have the gentleman here who's the manager, and they have a floor manager who walks through the place at all times. If they catch any of that, there's no warning or anything, they get fired automatically. They had a young lady they had to do the other day. It got to the point where it just started, and then they said no, and then she got fired on the spot. So they've taken remedial action. This gentleman's here is there on all the evening hours when they're busy, because you can go there 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. There's nobody in the place, and they're not doing the hip hop anymore, so they don't have the crowds that are coming anymore. And I talked with the chief inspector, and they were cooperative, and they're trying to work with everybody through it. And like I say, they're new to the business, and they're trying to make their way through it.
Is that correct?
That's correct, Chairman.
Okay. Commissioners have anything further?
I don't.
Okay. On the basis of the materials that are contained in the charging papers, the admission on behalf of the licensees as to each of these violations, and the testimony and proffers that we've received, I would find a violation of Alcoholic Beverages Rule 4.16 on September 16, 2017, a violation of the Adult Entertainment Rule 3.17C1 on September 16, a violation of Adult Entertainment Rule 3.17C1 on September 16, a violation of Adult Entertainment Rule 3.17C2 on September 16, and a violation of Adult Entertainment Rule 3.17D on September 16, all in 2017. Commissioners agree with those findings?
I agree with the findings.
I agree.
Question then becomes, you're new, so these are your first violations, but it's only been 5 months, and you've got these. To some extent, they're a bit redundant, and I understand Mr. Kadensky's argument, but I'm going to impose a sanction as to each. I would impose a $300 sanction as to each one, and that would come to a total of $1,500, and I would give you 30 days to pay it.
I just have to say, obviously I agree with the findings. I've already said that. I agree with the imposition of the fine, the amounts. It's sort of stunning that you're even here, because these are offenses that are, that it's a violation. You know how to avoid it. It's just so easy to avoid this problem, right? When you agree at this point, and you're going to do everything you can so you don't come back. I guess that's it. It doesn't make any sense that you're even here.
I concur with the amount of each violation, and sounds to me like you guys just were so busy that people weren't checking things out and making sure people were doing the right things and the wrong things. You're lucky you didn't get charged, frankly, with a violation for fire capacity issues, but I think my sense is you guys have learned your lesson, and hope we don't have to see you again in afternoon docket.
Okay, thank you.
You've invested a lot, and you've, not just in this space, but as I heard, the properties on both sides, you've got a huge investment. You don't want to see it get frittered away and chipped away by fines, and there's also the possibility of being closed, so just don't come back.
Thank you.
I call exhibits for the record. Board Exhibit 1, Baltimore City Police Department report, Detective Greenhill. Board Exhibit 2, investigation report, Chief Inspector Mark Foster. Thank you.
Tegas, Ayala, and Ezra Tele, Easy Group LLC, trading as Warehouse 158, 518 North Charles Street. This is a Class B beer, wine, and liquor license. Here for a violation of Rule 4.16, illegal conduct, on September the 24th, 2017. Please come forward.
Would you all please raise your right hands?
Okay. Do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do. And before we get started, can you each state your name in the record, please?
It's a Gustayero.
And that's A-Y-A-L-E-W?
That's correct.
And you, sir?
My name is Ezra Talai.
T-I-L-A-Y-E.
Correct.
And?
Agent John Howard.
Okay, so the charge is that on September 24 of this year, Agent Howard observed the front door opened and heard loud music coming from the establishment. Also observed about 10 or 15 people standing outside and talking very loudly, and a violation was issued. Do you wish to admit or deny that?
Would like to admit.
Okay. And would you like to explain what was going on?
Yeah, so we've had the license for over 7 years. We haven't had any violations whatsoever. We did have a management agreement in place with the new owners, which I have copies for everyone if you'd like to see that. In the agreement, it clearly states that they will abide by all Baltimore City and Baltimore Liquor Board rules and regulations. We met with them to actively ensure that they follow those rules. And as Agent Howard will attest, they disregarded those rules, and I was notified the day of the infraction and immediately terminated the agreement.
So you are the licensees, but you have someone else managing the establishment?
Yes, there was. We were in the process of transferring the license, which was set for September 28th, and they had a violation on September 17th.
Oh, I see. Okay, so they were going to be taking over the license?
Correct.
But they're not managing it anymore?
They are gone.
Okay. Is it open?
It is open as an event space, but not as a restaurant or bar.
Okay. So, Agent Howard, were these folks cooperative?
Yes, and if I can say that I've been the inspector in that area for the time that they have been here, and as long as they had it, we had no problems. But once they got the management, once they started to transfer, that's when we started having problems. And when I violated him, I did call, as you know, the licensee here, and explained to him what the problem was, which he immediately went and, I guess terminated the agreement. But he was unaware that they were having such, so many incidences.
Okay. Commissioners have questions?
I would like to note that I do live in Mount Vernon. I am the vice president of the Historic Charles Street Association, and I am a member of the Mount Vernon Business Association. And we do understand the importance of having a healthy, strong licensee running the operation, and this is not reflective of us, although it was under our license.
Still looking for someone to transfer it to, or?
Yes.
Okay, commissioners?
So just for the record, it looks like you applied to transfer the license in July 2017,
Mm-hmm.
and then this incident occurred September 24, and there was, you were set for a public hearing on that transfer application was set for October 30.
Mm-hmm.
But that hearing didn't take place because you withdrew the application.
Correct.
And am I understanding you withdrew the application in part
Because
because of this
of
violation and the concerns of how the property was being
Ability to,
managed?
appropriately manage the space and the license.
Okay, so at the time this incident occurred, you all were thinking it was a go, that they
Correct.
were gonna take it over? Okay, were you even present at the property when this incident occurred?
No, I was not.
Okay, and Madam, you were not either? Okay, all right, thank
Okay.
you.
Is there anything further you'd like to say, sir?
No, that was all. If you look same thing.
On the basis of the information that we have contained in our papers, the testimony we've received today, and your admission, I find a violation of Rule 4.16 on September 24, 2017. I agree. You have no history of violations, first one in 7 years, and you have, I think, handled it in a very professional way. So I'll impose a nominal sanction of $150 and give you 30 days to pay it.
I concur, I agree.
I concur with the finding the violation and the fine amount as well.
Thanks. I hope you were able to successfully transfer the business and get out of it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Board.
Thank you so much.
Take care.
I call I can see you over here with you. Sure, 1 second. I'd like to call exhibits to the record. Board Exhibit 1, investigation report, Agent John Howard. Thank you. Good, how are you?
Mr. Page, does that conclude our docket?
It does, Mr. Chairman. The board is in recess until Thursday, December the 7th, 2017, at 5 p.m.
Okay, I wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving. We'll see you in December.
Happy Thanksgiving.